Testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing.
Just another sound check? Oh, that's better, right? Okay, thank you. We'd like to invite the 2022 winning Parkmont poets down front here for a quick group photo, and then we're going to begin. So right this way, you guys, follow me. It feels almost nostalgic to say this, but would you silence your cell phones? We haven't said it for 2 years. We're in a live space, so that the beautiful verse doesn't get interrupted, just put them on mute. Thank you so much.
That's good. I don't have enough degrees to be able to stand up there. But I watched some amazing sermons done by Pastor Keith Byrd over the last couple of years. His church had the foresight to put in this whole installation with all the videography 2 weeks before March 13th, 2020. And as you can imagine, they've gotten exceptional use out of it throughout the pandemic in terms of holding their community together for that period of time. Good afternoon. I'm Ron McLean, head of the Parkmont School, and I'm here to welcome you to our 40th Parkmont Poetry Festival. The first one we did was at Hearst Hall at National Cathedral School in the spring of 1983. We're very grateful today to be hosted by our friends at the Zion Baptist Church after a 2-year pandemic break. And we want to give special thanks to Church Administrator Debbie Moon and videographer Reverend Campbell for their assistance today. We started the Poetry Festival back in 1983 to celebrate the creative talents of Washington's young people. We chose poetry because it's such a wonderful art for bringing together people of different ages, schools, and communities. And we knew that we wanted to do something as an independent school in Washington that would bring together young people from public, private, and charter schools. Now I'd like to introduce Kim Schraft, an invaluable high school teacher at Parkmont, which is across the street, for more than 3 decades, and an actress known throughout DC's theater world for her amazing work on stage. But today, most importantly, the Parkmont Poetry Festival's coordinator for the 15th year, and the person most responsible for all of us being here together at this event. Thank you all, young poets, parents, teachers, for joining us today.
Thank you, Ron. It's because you and Judy Lentz kick-started this event 40 years ago that we are gathering in this majestic space together after 2 really lonely years in isolation. We had festivals, but they weren't like this. It's good to be sharing a space again, even in masks. The notion of community has fueled this endeavor from its outset. As Ron remarked, Zion Baptist has welcomed us into their community. We will enjoy a reception afterwards downstairs in the aptly named Fellowship Hall. And of course, you all have brought your individual communities in tow today to make this poetry community. I was thinking this morning about how this stuff begins, poetry, that the act of inspiration is very solitary. Sometimes it's even lonely. Ron called it once an internal conversation with yourself. And sometimes a poem results. And most of the time, that's as far as it goes. But for a lot of these poets here today, somebody else stepped into the circle, a parent or a teacher or a friend, and said, hey, no, it's good. Maybe you should, I don't know. And it gets uploaded onto a website. And before you know it, some judges are weighing it and reading it carefully. The community widens a little bit. Maybe these judges, poets themselves, find something pleasing in it. Then printers and proofreaders are starting to share this poem, and it gets bound together with a whole bunch of other poems, in a little booklet. Other poets from the DMV you probably haven't even met. And now maybe 100 people are sitting here with your poem. We're about to experience the final phase of this cycle. And that's when the poem gets freed from the page and a human voice shares it, not just with the people in this sanctuary, but as far as the broadcast extends. I think of that as the life cycle of a poem. I could never thank everybody who has had some part or contributed in some way to this cycle of art, but I would like to nod to a few of them. With each passing year that I teach, less and less, and commune with teachers more and more, I'm just in awe of all that they do. These are the teachers who sponsored today's winning poets: Alan Newman, Eileen Hughes, Emily Butler, Laura Loftus, Aisha Sidibe, Julianne McCobin, Catherine Dunbar, Stanley Absher, Sausan Gilliam, Leslie Young, Malcolm Johnson, Joe Korth, Becky Farnham, Joe Ross, Nancy Schwab, Bridget Mullins, Willa Reinhard, and Neoli Gadudis. Thank you. I also want to thank our singularly supportive and dynamic Parkmont board, the tireless staff of Parkmont School, and the parent and student volunteers who are pitching in and helping today. 3 very talented and very busy poets made time to lovingly ponder 369 poems and select 40 distinguished ones. Court Bledsoe and Patrick Washington, our semifinalist poets. Yes. And our finalist poet, Ethelbert Miller. Ethelbert steps up to the plate for us, and yes, the baseball metaphor was intentional. A lot. This is his 6th time judging in our 40-year history. I think there should be some kind of jacket for that, but we haven't designed it yet. It's coming. And finally, we will hear from him after our poets read today. Lastly, we're very fortunate to have some good friends helping us along financially, and our gratitude to them is boundless. Jackie Michael and David Weissman have been sustaining angels of this festival, heading a list of many, many other generous donors. We have on the table this year a $10,000 match a grant that will double the impact of your gift up to $10,000. We are giddy thinking about all those zeros. We have never had a match that large. We're going to hear the poems in the order they appear in the booklet. So you'll have a little head start on when we're going to call your name. One of our poets will be streaming in remotely on the big screen, thanks to the wizardry of Reverend Campbell, our man behind the curtain, and we'll put that in at the end. In closing, I've rewritten some of Thornton Wilder's words. I'm working on a production of Our Town right now, and maybe that's why he's in my ear. I thought they spoke to what we're celebrating here today. It goes like this. Well, friends, 40 years have gone by now. The sun's come up over 14,600 times, and 1,600 vibrant young writers have sung their hearts in verse. Over 1,000 sage judges have ushered in the winners, and countless friends and families have burst with pride to see their loved one in a new way. All that can happen in 40 years. I have a tiny footnote. I learned this year that a pair of Parkmont Poetry Festival winners got married. Aaron Brooks and Ryan Hayes, two winners from the DC Creative Writing Workshop Collective, have married. If not the first, certainly the first one we know about. And that is just another measure of what it means to have 40 years history in an event. Okay, the first poem. For those who are following along, I'm going to throw you for a little loop. We're going to move a poet up because he's got to get to another poetry event. And we're going to have Jack Ryan read first. Jack's poem can be found on page 34. If you like to follow along, maybe you just like to close your eyes and listen. But this is Jack Ryan, a 12th grader from Gonzaga College High School. We can take our masks off when we read poems. Please replace them before you return to the pew.
Ode to Willie Lewis. For Willie Lewis, an African-American man who testified against Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam in their trial for the murder of Emmett Till. The splintering, aching oak of the witness stand pierces his unbelted khaki pants. He bears witness to a crime only punishable in the land untilled by Whitney's gin. The stare of 12 white men burns his smooth temple, wishing to replace his cross with barbed wire, the cold marble floor with the Tallahatchie. The ebony hand of God points to the bald-headed man across the stand of injustice. A verdict rendered centuries before that gavel's bang, when the white lion breached the fertile ground of a stolen land. An acquittal known to all whose yard was laced with a white picket fence and whose houses were built on a dream deferred. Their stares speak 1,000 words, not one of which is guilty.
Thank you, Jack. It seems right to start with an ode, something a little solemn, and to think about Emmett Till has been in my mind a lot. And thank you for those striking images of that courtroom, and also for such a beautiful delivery. Now we're going to start at the beginning of the book, and we have the poem I Have Magic by Javion Brown, a 7th grader at Charles Hart Middle School. Nancy Schwab is going to read for Javion. Nancy?
Javion wanted to be here, he just couldn't do it. I have magic. I don't watch TV, the TV watches me. Every time I sleep, the house changes into a new house. And every time I walk, everyone stops what they're doing. When I talk, the sun and the moon both listen. When I get money, it turns into diamonds and emeralds. When I get on the bus, it's already the end of school. That was weird.
If Javion were here, I would say, that was a magical poem. And I like that we have some magic in the room today. Thank you, Nancy. Our next poet, and I'm gonna have to ask, I'm not sure if Anna Argueta is here from E.L. Haynes, PCS, or if there's anybody to read for Anna. I will read her poem. It's called Doubtery. Doubtery. Who am I? I could say I am a million different things. And how would you know I'm not? How do you come to the conclusion of what's real and what's not? Do you dedicate a study to the theory that my life is a lie, in fear that one day I may die, with none of your questions answered, that my name may be slandered? How do you know I am not a pit of destruction, that my reconstruction was nothing but a mere lie? Yet I cry, because I don't know who I am. I could be the epitome of happiness, but I don't feel like I am. I feel jammed into an uncontrollable void that I'd like to avoid. I'm annoyed, destroyed, and not overjoyed. I'm stuck in a cycle of doubt, wanting to shout, but I'm left with a pout, like some trout in a drought without a map in this route. Yeah, Anna. I love it when there's a poem written by a 12th grader that could have been written by a 40-year-old or a 65-year-old. That's how I felt about that. The next poem is from Sidwell Friends' 6th grade student, Evan Tan. It's called Poem, and it will be read by another Sidwell winner, Jaina Agrawal.
Poem. Sticks weaving around through the air, just like our lives, constantly changing course. Leaves, showing their health in many shades of colors, but still helpless, to the power of the frigid wind, just like ourselves, better in the warmth of the sun. Birds roosting in the maze of moss-covered branches, nests made of layers of sticks and hay, providing a promising shelter, just like our houses, to protect ourselves. The roots down under, the life source of it all, providing all the proper nutrients to survive, just like our food, to strengthen ourselves, back to our best self. The towering tree that seems to be lifeless sometimes, instill a whole world inside, hosting an entire variety of life, just like ours. Still, remember that the tree is a world, just like ours.
Thank you so much, Jaina. We were talking before the event about the dogwoods in this neighborhood, the pink ones and the white ones, and it's just lovely to write about and talk about and take in the trees. That was lovely. The next poet is from Parkmont School. Abe Silverman is a 9th grader, and his poem is called A Rainy Dock.
Waves smash against the pillars. Cold rain batters against the dock. The tip-tap of the rain against my coat, like the ticking of a clock. Sharp air fills my lungs. With each exhale, my breath freezes in the frigid air. The weathered dock like an elder who refuses to let death take them. The creaking of the wood like brittle bones. Moss green raincoat does little to warm me. Each raindrop falls into the lake and disappears like a small child in a crowd. White clouds coat the sky like a cotton ball blanket. I look with glazed eyes into the sky, hypnotized as my mind shuts down. Sunrise peeks through like a beacon of what's to come and what is past.
Thank you, Abe. Gosh, the lines are drenched in imagery. It's just so sensory. I love the cotton ball blanket. And at the same time, it's very spare and beautiful. Thank you. The next poem, Dreams Over Nightmares, is by Essen Godbolt, an 8th grader from Charles Hart Middle School.
Every time I come into church like this, I automatically think giving honor to God, the deacons in the pulpit, and all that stuff. But it's good to see you again, Kim. The song couldn't make it. I'll try to do him justice. Every night when I go to sleep, I hear voices with rhythm. When I am awake, I hear voices of joy and laughter. Some nights I want to sleep, but I have nightmares that I hurt. The nightmares don't want me to do more damage. When I wake up angry, I mask that fact all day till I get home. There is a tiny little mockingbird in my mind that tells me to never do something that's not going to help me. I don't drown on failed dreams. I'm the one who backflips and floats on them until my dreams are completed.
Introduce yourself.
She said to introduce myself. I'm Patrick Washington from DC Creative Writing Workshop. So,
Started with an ode, and now we have an elegy. This is Elegy to My Last Name by Cole Hughes, a 12th grader at Gonzaga College High School.
Hughes, who I am, who I can become, who I've been. The half of me, often neglected through thick and thin, has groomed me for nothing but success. A split child, galaxies collide, creating catastrophe. So where does that leave us now? The Milky Way of love, an outcast, stranded between dishonor and acceptance. Accept this, Hughes, regardless of distance, forever you are me, forever I am you.
Thank you, Cole. You make that poem sing even through a mask. That was awesome. I'm going to do a quick check-in. I have another poet with a time constraint, and we got a little bit off, and I want to check in with Neve, whether we're good? Okay, terrific. In that case, we will proceed as planned. Just for You is the next poem. It's by Camille Contupis, a 6th grader from Sidwell Friends School.
just for you. I watch quietly as you lie there, still and peaceful. Sniffles and looks of regret fill the room. Mother pushes me. I stumble but shuffle my feet forward, your rose clutched in my hand. Its sharp thorns dig into my soft skin. A vibrant red rose, fresh petals holding strong to the stem. I picked it myself, just for you. I swallow the lump in my throat, release my tight grip, and place down my offering to you.
That was worth waiting for, Camille. That was really beautiful. Sometimes just the image of a red rose can pierce you. I think all that silence leading up to it framed it really nicely. Thank you so much. The next poet is Layla Bapna, a 9th grader from Georgetown Day School. Layla's poem is The Shadow That Lurks.
I remember what my parents have told me. The bare hospital rooms that became a second home. The anxious silence before the doctor spoke. The good and bad days. But I can't differentiate my own memories from the ones I've been told. Only one remains etched in my mind. I stood outside the doorway to my parents' room with my brother and father. We had just come home from school. My pink butterfly backpack with fraying threads hung across my shoulders. My mother lay behind the door. She had been in the hospital. My dad whispered to go say hello. I nodded and clasped my brother's hands. We put on our blue surgical masks, and my dad led us inside. I took a few steps before standing still. My hand fell away from my brother as I stared in silence. I don't remember what I saw. Many months later, we got the good news. It was gone, but while it may have been gone from her body, it wasn't gone from our lives. Like a shadow, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. Not knowing if and when.
Thank you, Layla. Lots of layers to that poem. It's not what we think we're going to hear when we hear the title, and the shadows that you explore are quite profound. The next poem is The Beast. It's by Spencer Millian, a 12th grader from Parkmont School. Spencer?
A night in the forest is dangerous nowadays, though the animals here are not as threatening as the last. Rumors say a huge beast roams the landfall. Some say this monster is as big as the moon. Some claim bears and wolves see him and scatter off. The beast roams from January to February. Numerous prey, even people it stalks. People prepare for this monster with their weapons for hunting the fields, from pitchforks to torches and bats that are barbed. The boundary between the forest and the town is walled with wire. Anyone daring enough to go over comes back in a cast. In fear, I, for one, arm myself with all the munitions I own, to fight a monster as scary as the Grim Reaper's shadow.
Thank you, Spencer. That cast a spell. I think it's really hard to write frightening things, genuinely frightening things. And I had a chill hearing this poem. Thank you. The next poet is Natalie Weiss. Natalie is an 8th grader from Sheridan School, and her poem is Song of Sonia.
big can memorize in a short amount of time. Okay. I am a teenage Jewish girl, an ordinary everyday face. You see me at the market, you see me at the village. I am determined and courageous. I long for an adventure of my own freedom. Snow falls down from the sky, a nice winter eve, and snow blankets the ground. My mother breaks the silence, calling for me to come inside. You are my flesh and blood, you gave me life, but you don't trust me enough to let me go, though I have lived 13 years. You don't even know me, though you should. You will never get to see me grow up. You live across town. You hate me for being a Jew. You decided I should die. You burned my home to the ground. Shouts of fury come from outside. Men with torches and guns storm our town. They burn our houses and kill anyone who flees. I hear my mother and father shriek. I smell roasting flesh. I breathe in smoke and ash. Blood wrapped in fire falls on me. Pain washes over me as everything fades to black. You don't even know me, though you should. You tried to kill me, but am I gone for good? Snow falls on frozen bodies. I am alive, but I am alone. I am terrified of the silence surrounding me. There's no time to Shiva. Everyone is gone. The rabbi, my village, my mother. Sadness overwhelms me, but for weeks and months I walked, fleeing for my life. I finally reached the port, no ticket in my hand. You stand by the sea, checking people's tickets before they board the ship. I sneak past you. You will report me, see me. A refugee fleeing from my new home in America. You don't even know me, though you should. We are the same. I am human, just like you. The world doubted me. I survived. Mother, townsman, ticket checker. I am much more than just a girl. I was the only survivor of a massacre. I walked to the dock in England from Russia. I boarded a ship headed for America. I will survive and thrive in my new life, remembering and grieving the life I have. Generations will know me. I made their lives possible. I am a survivor.
Thank you, Natalie. You can have a universe in a poem. Like you can have a lifetime and you can have a world in a poem. And you got a lot of universe in that poem. And it's a true story. Wow, thank you. The next poem is called Reunion by Ivan Marroquin. And Ivan, if I butchered Marroquin, please correct me as soon as you come up. I did my best. A 12th grader from Gonzaga College High School. Marroquin, please tell them to say that. That's beautiful.
Ivan Marroquin. Reunion. Up, up, up and up. Starting at the bottom and I'm sleepy and tired. I look to my left and then to my right. We were prepared, but most of us weren't ready. The sun and heat were powering over me, but I couldn't give up. My dad made sure to hold tight onto the flowers we were bringing up. The single piece of metal fought through everything in our way. Chop, chop, chop. The machete was our best friend. We're halfway there. Up, up, up and up. Leaves and branches were flying left and right. Soon we were all at the top. My dad popped open the bottles. I made sure Grandpa's grave was washed and clean. We were with Grandpa again.
Thank you, Ivan. That was beautiful. That refrain, up, 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 and up. Just the power of the echo of it washing over you. Ivan Marroquin. Thank you. We have another poem called Reunion. It's not a typo. And this poem is by Niamh Ivasian. Niamh is a 7th grader at the Murray School.
The
door opens to cheek kisses and tight hugs from people I sometimes don't even remember, but they talk of how I was so cute when I was no more than 4 and talk of how I have grown so much. The chatter of family members, unseen for years, is sometimes loud and intense, others quiet and secretive. We speak our own language, not just Farsi, but that of memories and family. The women in the kitchen discuss family recipes, helping cook the meal of the first night of their visit. The next night's meal could be much less hurried and much more extravagant. They talk of their successful children, lawyers, doctors, and complain of the ones who they think will never become anything more than a disappointment. The young children look on, listen to the tales of success and caution, and think of which they will be. The smell of delicious food yet to be served tortures both children and adults as their mouths water. Once the adults gather around the table and the children gather around theirs, everyone has the same thought. Bukhurin dige.
Thank you so much, Neve. A different kind of reunion, yeah, a reunion around food, but both of them so eloquent. And we know these moments in our families and our worlds and our cultures. That was awesome. The next poem is by Gigi Knight. Gigi's History. Gigi is a 7th grader from Parkmont School. I should double check. Is Gigi here? No. Okay. My registration table says that Gigi did not make it. I'm sorry. I will try to do justice to Gigi's beautiful Spanish in this poem. Forgive me if I don't. Gigi's History. I'm from hard workers, from a country of parades, rivers, and beaches. I'm from sopa de carne, hojaldrado y arroz con carne. I'm from the people who helped build the canal. I'm from baseball players and boxers. I'm from people who sell bolis and empanadas. I'm from the tias who watch telenovelas. I'm from the uncle who downloaded El Reina del Sur. I'm from the cousin who wants to be on Caso Cerrado. I'm from the family who does over-the-top quinces. I'm from the family who made all my birthdays the best. I'm from the family that loves cooking. I'm from the family with heart disease. I'm from the family with sickle cell traits. I'm from the family with arthritis in its joints. I'm from the mom who gives back to the homeless. I'm from the mom who provides for her 3 daughters. I'm from the mom who gives her daughters the world and more. I'm from the grandma who used to make like 30 cupcakes a day. I'm from the grandma who did not play about her family. I'm from the grandma who is one of the hardest working women I have known. Brava, Gigi. I want to know that family. It's beautiful. The next poem is by another Gonzaga College High School poet, Markeith Hogan, an 11th grader. Markeith is not here, but it looks like Cole is going to read for him. Kadari, the light's in my eyes. Thank you for doing that. You'll hear again from Kadari when he reads his own poem a little bit later.
Corner store. Somewhere in the overloaded streets of Japan, on a humid summer day, lies a corner store, 7-Eleven, and walks an exotic, maybe on vacation, or perhaps lives nearby. But he's not a peer like a traditional Japanese man. The complete opposite. Unforgettably, he walks the aisles row by row. The clerk glares at him. Tension rises. Maybe it was the shade of his skin, perhaps his sheer size. The counterfeit smile twisted into an assumption because he looked black, because he looked American. To the clerk, surely this foreign man only speaks English. To the clerk, he only speaks danger. But the forged welcome. Good morning. How can I help you? His counterfeit smile. Maybe it was fear talking, or perhaps instinct. Are you buying anything or you just looking? Disapproval bombs the store. Why am I, a black man, in Japanese ground, targeted like a terrorist? Why do I, a bilingual human, feel the unwelcomed ambush my mother's land? Perhaps that's just how it goes. Perhaps that's how it shouldn't.
Thank you, Kadari. That's a really powerful read to a really powerful poem. The next poem is The Weight on Our Shoulders by Chetan Altavot, a sixth grader from Sidwell Friends School.
The weight on our shoulders. If the earth carries the weight of everything on this planet, why can't we at least carry the burdens of another to help them live?
Thank you, Chetan. I feel like part of the power of this poem is in the line breaks at the end there. That could have all gone on one line, but it went on 3 lines. And it made me think every time you broke a line. That's beautiful. The next poem is by Garrett Velsey. Garrett is a 9th grader from Parkmont School. I'm going to read his poem, A Winter Farm. I walk into a land of snow, wandering through the brush in a farm blanketed by frost. The snow underfoot crunches with every step. Around the farmland, I take in the natural beauty. Ice-topped mountains, as if Mother Nature herself sprinkled them with sugar, creating the cake she calls Earth. From beneath an evergreen tree, I see a horse-drawn carriage pull around the corner. The driver waves and asks my name. Later, I skate atop a frozen pond and make a fire and roast marshmallows while I warm up. The wind on my skin is like knives, although I am bundled up in layers of clothing. The gentle smell of a home-baked feast wafts from a house nearby. Inside the window, I see an old lady bent over, tending to the fire and her family. The wind howls in my ears as if it is trying to tell me something. I return to the farm and help chop trees for firewood. We saw them into small logs, perfect for the bonfire we are making. Some of the snow has melted and a small stream is flowing through the farmyard. It leads downhill towards the river, like a tear rolling down the face of this mountain. The sun slowly sinks beneath the horizon. Everything painted brilliant shades of pink, orange, and red. I feel like the whole room changed. Garrett, that's a fabulous poem. Rich images. Our next poet is Avi Duliski-Tenner. Avi is a 7th grader at Sheridan School, and he is reading his poem, I Dream a World, my non-binary version.
I go to the school and know everyone well. I'm Latina, I'm non-binary, I'm different. My identity would stand out in a crowd. Being non-binary is a big part of it. A class full of people who are on the gender binary, just me to stand out. I wish that people would just ask me instead of assuming that I'm male, just because I also use the he and he they. If only they would just recognize that people would just use they them. Nobody else is like me in the class, and that's what makes me different. You know, I've been wondering lately, trying to figure out just how it could be that you all are around me so often. Few of you think to ask about what I am, and how nobody seems to see the real me. I hang out with my friends a lot, but they still don't know me. Some call me male, others call me non-binary. What some won't understand. I am male, but I'm not male, but just non-binary. I try to tell them almost each and every day, but they still wouldn't listen. Pronouns are what to be called, but not how people would identify. No matter how much I try, some won't ever understand. You know, I've been wondering lately, trying to figure out how it could be that you're around me so often, and you still don't know a thing about it. For those who don't know what I am, you may or may not understand. You may think that non-binary is the same as bad, but I assure you that it isn't what you think. I've heard some opinions, some in the news, some not, that non-binary shouldn't be identifiable, something that nobody could care about. I've seen people ignoring how and what I am. Sure, it makes me feel sad, but my eyes will stay dry. I feel sad for those who don't understand, because they might just lose something in their future lives, no matter how much I do and whatever I try. Somebody out there won't understand, so I try to help people I do. In every single school, there will be at least one who doesn't have a clue, despite how much I've done. I've tried explaining it, but people don't understand. It's their problem, not mine, because I know I will always understand. They might never understand unless somebody would take a stand. I will take one, and I already have. It's not that easy, despite all the practice I've had. You know, I've been wondering lately, trying to figure out how it could be. You are around me so often, but you still don't know a thing about me.
Sorry for the delay there, Avi. I think good poetry teaches us things. And the stand that you took will help people understand. My hat is off to you. It was wonderful. Oh, I got lost in my book listening to Avi's poem. I have to find my place. Let's see. Faded Denim is the next poem by Jaina Agrawal, a 6th grader from Sidwell Friends School.
Faded denim. Aged and antique, the colors all washed down, run together. Colors as old as my grandfather and as wise as my mother. Thrown aside, no one cares anymore. No one desires to listen to the stories these colors tell. Pilgrimages to world wars. But all this denim is a gentle breeze, wistfully reminding us of the past.
I'm just going to lean in. I do that all the time. Jana, that was awesome. I feel like we've had all kinds of climate in here. We had that gentle breeze. We had that snowy field. We hiked to the top of a mountain under the sun. Power of poetry. Okay, our next poem, When the World Ends, by Krista Matakaegbu, grade 11, Ballou Senior High School. And Nancy, correct me if I didn't do justice to Krista's beautiful name.
Krista has her name written phonetically on her folder, Matakaegbu. When the world ends. When the world ends, won't it be another day? Waking up to a shining blur in my eyes as I venture into a building to be churned and kneaded till I'm numb and left to serve an apathetic organization and a CEO somewhere who flaunts his wealth and promises a change he'll never bring. Heading home alone after a temporary eternity with a goal unfinished and a life as something other than a corporate slave to be desired, the same as always. Is that how the world ends? Instead of ending like the past, maybe it could end like a dream. I will be collecting crystals and manifesting more joy than ever, cherishing all my possessions, both material and emotional. I will be crying and screaming and venting all my anxieties into a void, no soul in sight to tell. I will be cheering, embracing, and loving everything about me, my melanin, my queerness, and my femininity. I will be resting in a lavish home that is not my own, munching on every snack I like in every corner store and every giant in sight. I will be laughing, raging, and flaming as I and the pleasant people play Uno, accepting our losses and our victories. Oh, to end so beautifully truly is a dream deserving to become reality. When the world ends, what should I expect? Hope, despair, paradise, or purgatory?
Nancy, please tell Krista how powerful that was. Thank you. The next poet is a Parkmont poet, Alex Harry. Alex isn't here to read today, but I'll share his poem. It's called Numb. You stand in the middle of a crowded town. The air is filled with the scent of hard dung and sweat. You see a young man, limbs being torn apart, and hear his screams piercing the wind like a rusty knife. Some cheer, others stand silently still, but all go about their day the same way. This has happened for centuries and will continue to happen for many more, numb to the bloodshed around us. You sail across the sea to a new world. There is much adventure to be had, conquering the Aztec, Inca, and Maya, finding mountains and lakes of gold and silver. You build a city made of bones and force the survivors to watch and serve. You raise your children on the same soil, basted in forced blood and sweat of the enslaved. You force those taken from their homes and across the sea to work endlessly. You whip and tear people limb from limb. This happens for many more centuries, the trauma being passed down and growing, numb to the pain around us. You live in the modern day, a time when there are no problems, or at least better than before. Slavery and segregation had died out many years ago. You know that the meat you eat is processed by 1 million immigrants being paid barely a penny. You know your clothes are made from the sweat and muscle of both innocent and guilty prisoners taken straight off the street. The newest type of enslavement, but you choose to look away, not out of hate or malice, but of an ancient fear, a fear that was caused by centuries of pain and bloodshed. Rather than act, we chose fight, fly, or freeze. You don't need to start a movement, but instead choose to see. See that hurt part inside of you and tell it that it's loved and does not have to fear anymore. We are numb to the others around us. Yeah, we could all stand to do that. See that hurt part inside of us and tell it it is loved. The next poet is a 7th grader from Charles Hart Middle School, Xavier Carson. His poem is called Masterpiece.
Masterpiece. What I get to be a painter, I'm going to paint a picture, a forgotten key, locked door, and that door open. Flowers will get blue in the rain, but fine fair. I burn deep color, crimson, blue, and yellow. Green tree, the red thorn, the slide, the yellow cup. I'll paint a trumpet, a fight in school, fine deep, red blood in his face. I swallow a spray, so burn a move on.
I can see it, Xavier. I can see that painting. That was awesome. Thank you. The next poem, Haiku for Hiraeth, is by Madison McCauley, a 9th grader at Benjamin Banneker Academic High School.
Rockers in the sun, bright and cheerful this day is. Friendship over time.
I love it when there's a haiku in the 40 poems that we choose. I think they're little gems. I love the white space on the page around it, Madison. And I liked the care you took with each phrase. Thank you so much. We're going to skip the next poem and move it to the end. This is a poem that will be broadcast, but we think it'll be easier to finesse if we put it at the end. So we'll come back to Leyu's poem on 16th Street, and we'll move ahead to Kadari Machen's poem, 17-2.
back. My poem's entitled 17-2. What would I get if I shot 3 and killed 2? Maybe a cell, 20 years, probably a shot to the head for acting like a fool. With an AR-15, how would I be met? I can't even walk around with a hoodie on without being seen as a threat. Me walking to a protest with an assault rifle, you can only pray that I stay alive. You see, when you look like me, walking around with an assault rifle is called suicide. But even if I made it out, surely the courtroom would be my demise. Would the judge say the people I killed weren't victims? Wouldn't everyone speak up and contradict them? I'm 17-2, but no doubt they'd see me as a grown man. I know they wouldn't sympathize if I dared to cry on the stand. If I had pulled the trigger, would strangers send me millions for my defense plan? I think instead they would see my actions as a capital offense to reprimand. Would congressmen offer me internships while still on trial? If I killed 2, would I be seen as a hero like Kyle? Will there be change, or will these stories continue to compile? 2 steps forward, and then we seem to go backwards 200 miles.
You helped raise our consciousness last year too, Kadari. I like that you do that in your poetry. And boy, poetry can hold up a mirror and make us sit in some discomfort. Thank you for all that honesty and power. The next poem is called My Home by Nedi Etana, an 8th grader from Center City Public Charter School in Brightwood. I need to do a little check-in. Is Nettie here? We have a, yes? Fabulous.
When I go to the beach, I hear the screaming and roaring waves calling out my name and the hot and spicy sun gazing into my soul. Everything draws me in. The sand crunches like an apple baked in the oven of the beach, and people picking up shells like sweet and beautiful flowers. I hear kids screaming like thunder and lightning. They blend together like salt and sugar. As the melting sun goes down, everyone settles down. And the sand becomes cooler as the wind and the waves become calmer and quieter. But when I leave the beach, my heart starts to shatter into pieces, and I feel like a knife was just thrown in my stomach. The beach is my happy place, and I want to be there forever.
Thank you, Nettie. Great, thanks. Thank you so much. Boy, that apple baked in the oven of the beach, that's really good. So many visceral images in this. Thank you so much. Our next poem is by Ariel Putterman, grade 11, from Parkmont School. Ariel's not here today, but we have a Parkmont student, Mirette Becare, who will read Ariel's poem for her. Thank you so much, Mirette.
As I open my eyes and catch sight of the As I open my eyes and catch sight of the old wooden ceiling, I stumble from the bunk bed with eyes barely open. As I stand in the shower swaying, fighting the urge to fall back asleep, beside me I hear the golden voice of a friend. As I sit on the cabin's front deck, my cabin mates and I waiting for the shiny ring of the breakfast bell, as it dings once, we pick up our feet. Our legs accelerate as we are determined to be first in line. As I sit on the main lodge surrounded with people, my lungs breathe for the fresh eggs, and sizzling bacon hit my tongue, and my taste buds thank me. I wish to never leave, the voice inside speaks.
Thank you, Mariette. Just the words sleepaway camp are so evocative. But that's just a very sweet poem. The next poem is called Beings. It's by Jayla McMillian, a 6th grader from Charles Hart Middle School. And Nancy Schwab's going to read for Jayla.
Yeah, this is my last time. Jayla is actually vaccinated and all ready, but she's at she had to go to a cheerleading competition. Beings. There will always be light after dark. By dark, I don't mean those unfamiliar midnight skies. I mean the dark, absent-minded, savage people who paralyze you when you dare to look their way. The people who will influence you like an addicting fog in the sky, moving frantically toward you. That is what I mean by dark. The meaning of light? I don't mean the elegant sun that shines bright in the glowing sky. I mean the people who cherish seeing themselves to the next day. I mean the people who have a light scent of violet to their damp skin. They forever praise the God that serves them. They praise the ground beneath their own 2 feet. That is what I mean by there will always be light after dark.
Thank you, Nancy. That was beautiful. The next poem is by a Ballou Senior High School 10th grade student, Leandre Johnson, and it looks like Patrick Washington is going to read for Leandre. Thank you, Patrick.
I am sadness. I eat broccoli. I am one of the main forces that cause pain. I am the tear that falls alone. I am the blade that causes pain within the souls of hope and happiness. I am the thing that people can hide perfectly behind a smile.
Thank you, Patrick. That was just perfectly rendered. We have another Sidwell Friends 6th grade winner, Sevak Stepanyan, who isn't able to join us today, but we're going to enlist Camille Kantoupas to come back to read The Light in the Dark. Lots of light and dark imagery, I feel like, in the poetry today, which kind of makes sense to me. So thank you, Camille.
The light in the dark. The sun with its glory gives light and life, provides all with hope and warmth. To the moon too it gives some light, some glory, some warmth, some hope. But the moon that lives on borrowed light cannot give hope to those who seek perfection, filled with their pride who have all they need but crave more. Only the rare few who are lost seem to accept the light of the moon, to lead them somewhere, to where they don't know, to somewhere with joy and not such gloom. The rare few who must embrace the rain and rust are the ones who know what it takes to live off the crumbs of this forsaken world.
Thank you, Camille. It's hard sometimes to read another poet's words and to make them sound real and true, and you absolutely did that. Thank you for that. Okay, the next poem is by a Parkmont student, Jacob Roberts, a 9th grader, and it's called Flowing Water.
Fading moonlight reflects off a puddle. Souls slowly lose their breath. Walls collapse and lose their bow to gravity. The touch of impermanence is inescapable. The present moment and impermanence are the only permanent forces. Holding on to a passing part of reality is solely a hopeless fight.
Thank you very much, Jacob. I was thinking about the fact that you just came back from a camping trip and that these images sound as though they could have been plucked from your, I know they weren't, you wrote it a long time ago. Thank you so much. The next poem, The Apple's Determination, is by Felipe Limao, grade 7, the Sheridan School. And Felipe, correct me if Limao was not quite right. Excellent. Philippe, thank you. There you go.
I sit in a fruit bowl. I wait for you to taste me. I'm round, I'm red, I'm shiny, so of course I think I'm tasty. I'm crisp, juicy, and tart. Mushy, I am not, so it bothered me last week when you made a face at my brown spot. You know, I've been wondering lately, trying to figure out just how it could be that I taste perfectly fine, but you would just not eat me. You throw me in the trash. You think one fruit won't be a fine. You forget all the methane I'll release, the good wasted on me at the front. You act like I'll do nothing. It's just one fruit, you think. But 1 + 1 + 1 can become millions in a blink. You know, I've been wondering lately, trying to figure out just how it could be that thrown out, I'll hurt the earth, but you refuse to eat me. Last night, I had a dream. People turned off unused taps. No one had overfull fridges, or were throwing out lots of scraps. The atmosphere was cool. Earth was regarded highly, and all of the world's animals were content, safe, and lively. The humans were considerate, made sure Earth was okay, not heated up by gases, but just by night and day. That world is what I strive for, because until the day that this ideal is reached, wildlife will die away. Floods and droughts will kill, wildfires will creep to every city, every village. The effects will see. And so I fight every day, for it can't be erased. The death, carnage, destruction caused by our food waste.
I think that's a really important poem, Philippe. And it's, you know, it fools us a little bit. It starts out very fanciful, and it ends up fire. Thank you so much. So the next poem we have heard, that was Jack Ryan's poem, Ode to Willie Lewis. But we'll move on to another ode. We have an ode next to an ode here. Emily Allen from Murray School, a 7th grader, has written Ode to Pancakes. Emily.
It's a round of batter and butter, fried in a pan, never a griddle. It's my father, spatula in hand. It's my father's father's father, settled in a lazy boy, syrup running down his chin. He did good, Trav. It's a mistake, wrinkly and runny, inside sizzling at the bottom of the pan. It's a Sunday morning, big hands over small ones, 1 cup flour, 1 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of oil. It's the perfect flip, accompanied by a pat on the back. It's my father, settled in a chair, chewing his way through a mouthful. It's way to go, Ems.
Emily, this poem just makes me grin from ear to ear. Did you guys usually throw out the first ones? We always threw out the first pancakes. They were always burnt. But this is just nostalgia and beautiful verse. Thank you very much. The next poem is by Sean Quigley, a 9th grader at Parkmont. It's called Homework. Sean is at his internship today where they are understaffed, and he agreed to go in, and he was so sorry not to be able to be here. But one of our Parkmont volunteers, Tigist Gebrselassie, will read Sean's poem, Homework.
Homework. My team's life mainly focuses on homework. My eyes pop up with figuring out time. My body's covered with sticky tape and activities. My mind is a worker bee that works too much. My beauty sleep is sadly cut short with scissors. My knowledgeable experiences got harder year by year. My strong brain focuses on the completion process. My so-called wish is getting better grades. My beloved mental health needs improvement. My extra free time needs to occur more often.
I frequently lament that my beauty sleep is cut short and that my beloved mental health needs improvement. Thank you, Tigist, for, I think, capturing just the spirit that Sean wrote this in. The next poem is by Truss Stevens, a 7th grader from Charles Hart Middle School. This is a King. It's Truss's poem.
This is a king. I was This is a king. I was born in DC where gods are born. I made this earth. I'm the flame that will control everything. And if that flame goes out, everybody will have nothing. I have a legendary fragrance that can't be compared. I have the warmth of a mother that can calm a newborn baby. I am the violin that even Adam can't touch. I'm the violin that's unseen to even God. The sound of laughter that comes from me is the sound of lyrics and a tender, transparent voice. I've been fed by a golden spoon, a diamond spoon, but none will fit me. I want the most valuable spoon to shallow my hunger. I'm so smart that even cryptic is understandable to me. I have a birthmark of a mystical beast. I am the king. Even if I have a king, I will not bow. I will not fall. I have king trust.
Thank you, Truss. I need to read this again a couple of times because I think it's so layered. I love the way you weave in and out with these metaphors and these images. I will spend some more time with this poem. It's lovely. The next poem is by Naveen Desai. Naveen is a 10th grader at Georgetown Day School, and we had quite a correspondence leading up to this. Naveen wasn't able to come, but I told him I would read his poem. Naveen's poem is Markets of India. I walk, my breath heavy, anchoring my legs into dry, baked, residential dirt, paving boundless streets. The sun, blindingly resounding, through palpable heat echoing off my tanned, blistered skin and every tin shack, half-built, almost collapsed, held together with clay and the sweat of labor. It reads, open 24/7 to the langurs falling from trees. I keep walking, steering through murdered mangoes' guts, strewn shamelessly on defaced soil. Broken rickshaws, tires stained orange like the setting sun I hope for. Coconut water, I hear a seller announce, his voice echoing in desperation. My throat guides me to the stand. 20 rupees, 20 only. I hand him a bill. He beheads the coconut. And I take it in my palms as it bleeds into my arms slowly. I open my mouth and feel a flood of awakening revival. My vision becomes clear. I hear the clacking of cow hooves, the ruffle of saris scraping the floor, the jingle of bangles forever tied to wrists. I remember I am in Agra, the markets of India, and I am at ease. Again, we're in a new world. The room just changed. I was feeling hot. What an impressive poem. This next poem by Julia Guerrieri Brown of Sheridan School is called My Version of I Dream a World. Julia is not able to be here, but her classmate at Sheridan, Philippe Limau, will read this poem for her. Thank you, Philippe.
I dream a world where two flowing dresses flow down the aisle, like a creek flowing through trees. I dream a world where the person I love is also in a dark black suit that holds all the mystery in the world. I dream a world where families don't look down on us, but look at us with pride and say, we look beautiful on our very special day. I dream a world where everywhere I look, there are the colors, orange, white, and pink, the colors of our flag, waving through the sky, flying high. I dream a world where those colors are meaning, and not just colors in the rainbow. I dream a world where I can hold hands with the person that I love and not be judged, but smiled on warmly by peaceful passing by. I dream a world where I don't have to be scared to be who I truly am, where all parents accept their children just the way they are. I dream a world where love is love. Of such a world I dream.
Thank you so much for such a heartfelt reading of Julia's poem. I feel these poems give us permission to dream. I think they extend an invitation to dream these dreams. Thank you, Philippe. Our next poet is Isabel Avedon. Grade 9, Georgetown Day School, Isabel's poem is How I Fell for 15 Years and Somehow Didn't Notice. And I'm going to mention that we've had a number of poets today who are repeat poets. Isabel was a winner last year, as was Kadari, as was Layla, as was a number. I mean, this is, you know, once you get going with this stuff, you keep cranking out the poems, and that's beautiful. Isabel, all yours.
Often, I think that growing up is just a series of little deaths, one after the other, and that each day I uncurl from a new cocoon of tangled sheets and weepy eyes to create myself anew, my skin the canvas, my sweat the paint, pheromones for color, tears for depth. I could glue together angel wings out of fabric scraps and scribbled notes with all the words I have not said for paste, and fly away on the same old twine that held young Icarus against the sky before he plummeted and disappeared, so fateful and so young beneath the sun's uncaring, jaundiced eye. I'm falling. My strings are wearing, and soon, so soon, too soon, I will have to find my own terrible bottom to stand on. Thank you.
Isabel, that's a remarkable poem. Really, you play with sound and image in such a beautiful way, and it's so wise for someone who's only been falling for 15 years. It's just a very wise poem. Our next poet, Carla Rodriguez, is a 12th grader at Parkmont School. She has a cheering section. And I gotta say this is exceptional. This is 3 years in a row, Carla? This is 3 years in a row for Parkmont Poetry Festival.
A Day Without Immigrants. I wrote this on February 14th. Today is a day without immigrants, yet I still came to school. My mom was up at 6 a.m. My dad drove me to school at 8. A day without immigrants. It should be staggering. We can't seem to stop working. Waiters, nurses, housewives, mechanics, construction workers, students. I feel unsupportive to my kind. I'm benefiting the others. They will never know the difference. Will they ever feel the absence? Thank you.
Carla, I think you have such a spare touch, and it makes what comes up through the poem so big because you're so light with it. Thank you. It's the last poem in our book. It's not quite the last poem of the festival, but this is Anjali Martin Shanker's poem, The Future I Will Create for Myself. Anjali is an 8th grader at Georgetown Day School.
I'm from climbing trees and bloody knees, where I clamber up to new highs and fall to new lows, earning my first tastes of success. I'm from twisting slides and swing sets, where I thrust my little brown legs forward, contemplating the physics of the swing. I'm from sugar-covered strawberries and sour lemonade, where I play in the sun, slathering sunscreen onto my already sunburned cheeks. But most of all, I am from the future I will create for myself. I'm from falling leaves and coming summers of DC, where we eagerly wait for snow to fall, but instead let our toes freeze on the bare sidewalks. I'm from loud music and louder laughter, where we cook using recipes passed down from my grandmothers. I'm from long walks and short goodbyes, where we skip to each other's houses like stones on water. But most of all, I am from the future I will create for myself. I'm from sweet harmonies and striding piano notes, where each new moment is a new beat to the melody of life. I'm from passing trains and flying planes, where I soar to new heights, looking down to see how small the world really is. I'm from cloudy skies and starry nights, where I lay on the damp grass, staring up through a telescope into the world that awaits me. But most of all, I am from the future I will create for myself. I'm from the path I will pave myself and the memories that have already started that path, where I recall cloud gazing and enjoying sweet strawberries. I'm from the connections I will make and those that have already made me who I am, where I recall skipping to friends' houses like stones on water and watching the world from above. I'm from an orchestra of life and the music notes that have composed my sonata, where I recall striding piano notes and loud music with louder laughter. But most of all, I recall the past that helped create my future. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. That really made the room sing. I'm struck, you poets, by the ways that you take the reins in your verse, that you're dreaming worlds that are better than the one you're in, and you're creating futures that you will come from, and you're taking stands and telling other people how to live in the world. And that's really beautiful. We have one last poem, and it is a streamed poem. So I'm just going to believe that this is really going to happen. I'm going to introduce. The final poem is by Leyu Fikru, and her poem can be found on page 25 if you wish to look. It's called On 16th Street. We're just off here on Blagden. And Leyu is a 6th grader at Parkmont School. I'm turning things over to Reverend Campbell.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. On 16th Street. On 16th Street, police sirens whine like toddlers under the half-white, half-blue sky. On 16th Street, leaves pile up and become mini landfills on the ground. Tennis balls, like unclean dishes, are scattered around. In grassy fields, you can hear ice, that cracking sound. On 16th Street, bitter leaves fall from sweet trees. There's lots of energy in small places, thinking, walking, familiar faces. The sun is held hostage by the clouds. The sound of people isn't that loud. Cottontails and dandelions waved like twins through the air. Everything has a right time and a right place somewhere. So many things unnoticed, both large and petite, so many wonders on 16th Street.
I feel like she can see me if I turn and look at the screen. Leyu, I know you're watching from where you're streaming. We were just gazing up at your larger-than-life image above the space, and it was quite the phenomenon. I love your many lenses for this place that you spend so much time, so many of us spend so much time, but the thoughtful ways that you look at it are quite beautiful. Well, that was our final poem, and we're going to take a moment now to hear from the person who brought you all here today, in a way, Ethelbert Miller, our finalist judge, our great friend and supporter, and DC's, I don't know, I think of you as DC's conscience, Ethelbert. Please come up and address our poets. We're so thrilled to have you here today.
Today is the last day of National Poetry Month. But as we can see from this afternoon, the future of poetry is in good hands. The Parkmont Poetry Festival has played a key role in helping young poets discover not just the joy of writing and reading poetry, but having a better appreciation of language and the power of words. To place words on a page is not an easy task. To take feelings associated with one's heart and write about them can be challenging and make a person become fearful of the outcome. As you celebrate your achievements today, ask yourself, what comes next? Ask yourself, why did you write your poem? How did your poem change you? Look closely at your poem. Ask yourself, what makes it go? Take your poem apart and build it again. To be a poet is to undertake a journey. It requires a searching. To be a poet, one must at times embrace the wonder and surprise, the magic and the music of language. Poems at times are keys. They can unlock many things. Think about what you wrote for this festival. Where did that poem come from? Where did it take you? What did it unlock? I started writing poetry around 1968 while I was a student at Howard University. For me, poetry came with blueprints. It helped me understand my race, culture, and history. I was blessed to walk across a college campus and see people who were poets. I remember going to a program at Howard University and listening to Sterling A. Brown, the man who became the first poet laureate of Washington, D.C. in 1984. It was from Sterling Brown I learned about African American folklore, the blues, and the importance of the oral tradition. If you continue writing poetry, and I hope you do, be prepared to welcome the miraculous. Be prepared to let into your life the light and brightness that comes with metaphors of the sonnet that teaches you about love. I hope all the parents and teachers here today will encourage the poetry winners to keep writing. Don't give up on your imagination. Write not just as an observer, but as a witness. It's not just enough to see and try to write about something. The poet must get inside what he or she sees. The poet must testify and make sure that that which is written is not shriveled and die. All poems push back against silence. And this is why we ask that the poets always be given the opportunity to speak, that they be encouraged to speak the truth to others, speak the truth to the people. It is this truth that protects our citizenship and our democracy, and the freedom for us to gather on days like this. I'll close with a poem I wrote about because of loss, the type of loss too many of us experience these days. A poem I wrote because of what was happening around me, the loss of friends and family. Black men are precious. Black men, Black friends having strokes. Black men younger than me, good men with bad hearts, men who did not follow their fathers into factories or the post office, Black men who went off to college and pulled themselves up by degrees, men who did not sink into despair, but lifted their families into new homes, Black men who survived the bullets, streets, and police, Black men who saw the horizon and the stars. They marched as if Garvey held out his hand not to Ethiopia, but to our hearts, Black hearts, now failing for unknown reasons. Why? Why do we die so young? Why are we not like our grandfathers sitting on the porch rocking away the years? Why are we not the Black men returning from the wars and lifting our girlfriends up into wives again? Why do we date this early death? After all the exercise and pills, after the changing diet, why is there such a cruel hunger that appears and takes our years? Black men, my friends resting in their open coffins, waiting for someone to sing, Precious Lord, and take their hand. Black hands closing with so much love still left to give. And I love you, man, as Duke Ellington would always say.
Thank you, Ethelbert, for the fullness of those words and the care of young writers, young poets. We are creating the futures that we will move into. And I feel that events like this, when we bring together folks from so many corners of just our little world, just our little district world, when we hear words from masters and elders, and we hear words from maybe first-time writers, maybe writers who never believed they had anything to say but put a pen to paper, we are helping to create those futures and to enrich our world. So I thank you for being here today. I'm terribly moved to be back at the 40th Parkmont Poetry Festival. I will say just a moment before we, I hope, go downstairs and have a reception together, have a little bit of Parkmont Poetry Punch and some sweets, and tell each other, extend the conversation. We started a conversation here, and let's keep that alive for a little bit. Your poem made me think of this, and I think I knew what you meant when you said that. That's why we do this. I'll throw out just a quick ask that we have this generous offer. We have a matching grant of $10,000 to help us move into our next decade of Parkmont poetry. And there are many ways to help us along on that road. You can give on our website, you can give at our marketing table downstairs, you can give on a Venmo app, you can write us a check. If you believe, as we do, in the future of young writers and the importance of gathering like this and sharing these words, we'd be grateful for any help you're able to give. Thank you. It was great celebrating with you, and let's continue it downstairs. Oh, I should say that the way downstairs is up here to the front and out the doors and down the staircase that you see, and I think you can follow your nose. Restrooms up here, restrooms in the back, and restrooms downstairs. Thanks everybody so much.